If you watched the previous part, then you know my take on why the bolter feels weak in Space Marine 2. But while I was doing research into that video and looking over all the bolter variants, I realized there was a comparison to how they designed the bolters for specific niche roles to a weapons platform in real life. That platform being the Automat Kalashnikov series of weapons. The poster child of that platform being the AK47. Now I could go on a 5-minute tangent explaining why this is, or I can show you bolter after bolter along with their AK counterparts and how the roles and designs match up. The latter option gives you an idea on what bolters you might like to try out, so we're going to go with that. Note, we are only going over the base level bolters. I doubt I could convince you a gold AK would have the same capabilities of a relic bolter. First up, we have the auto bolter rifle, and this will be our baseline, meaning we're comparing it to our AK baseline, the AK-47. In short, it's a simple assault weapon. It has a 30+ round magazine, firing what we consider to be an intermediate bolt shell, and if you don't have a lead finger, can be fired single or full auto. It doesn't excel in anything major, but you won't necessarily feel lacking with it either. The spread can make precise shots at pain at distance, but if you choose to use this bolter, you enjoy the simplicity of shoot gun until thing dead, no matter how big or small. Works for Xenos or Chaos. Next, we have the bolt rifle, which is described as a full auto precision rifle. This is an AK-74. The 74 switched up the caliber it used, and this resulted in higher accuracy through a faster bullet that would tumble upon hitting its target, leading to more lethality. With the bolt rifle, we see those translate as well in the stats. Now, ammo capacity and fire rate don't translate to the 74 as exactly, but 40k is not an exact science. Also, as a reminder, there are many variations for bolt shells, so it isn't unreasonable to assume the two bolters use different bolt shells, like the 47 and 74. The auto bolt rifle and bolt rifle look similar, but are different. Essentially the OG and the 2.0. The only difference is if you want a smidgen of more precision. I prefer using this on Chaos. After that is the heavy auto bolt rifle, which we'll compare to the RPK. A light machine gun with a higher magazine capacity than the previous entries, but still using a magazine rather than being belt-fed. A longer barrel helping with range, but also reducing accuracy degradation from the heat of extensive firing. The heavy bolt rifle's rate of fire is comparable to the previous bolters, which the same is true for the RPK. Even the heavy bolt rifle's damage, being just a tad bit higher than the auto bolt rifle, matches with the AK-47 and RPK, as those both use the same caliber, but the RPK's longer barrel gives a higher velocity. In use, this is meant for suppression and a force multiplier by killing many enemies in a short time. However, you'll feel lacking against heavier targets that can close the distance as your DPS is limited. This is my go-to for large gaunt hordes. Next up is the Stalker Bolt Rifle, a single auto high-powered rifle with an optic, meant to engage at long distances. Our comparison is the Dragunov SVD, the DMR of the AK platform, firing a heavy caliber, box magazine fed, and meant as squad support, utilized with the goal of removing high-risk targets that may be out of range of the standard weapons used by their squad mates. Semi-auto firing helps with faster follow-up shots, and box magazines make for a faster reload. In-game, this is good against synaptic Tyranid threats, but I found it works better on Thousand Suns Chaos Marines. Either way, focus on headshots and ranged threats. Melee enemies will close distance and can tank your hits better than their ranged counterparts. Now we go smaller with the bolt carbine. This comes off as the AKS-74U, a carbine version used by special forces and as a PDW for tankers and helicopter pilots. While the bolt carbine has a much higher rate of fire, everything else pretty much lines up in regards to the role. It has a shorter barrel, which means lower velocity and range. If something gets close, you can pump it full of lead very quickly. Just hope it's something smaller than you. Otherwise, your melee skills better be on point. Tactical or sniper, this weapon is very niche and I would only use on Minoris heavy areas. Let's move on to the Instigator Bolt Rifle, a 3-round burst silence bolter with an optic. Our comparison is the unique AN-94, which fires a 2-round burst, has the same caliber as the AK-74, can have an optic mounted, and can be suppressed. The point of multi-round burst being the marriage of high rate of fire while maintaining accuracy through less felt recoil. The Instigator uses this benefit to put multiple rounds on high-value targets from distance. In-game, you can do that, though it's pretty mid in a firefight. I found as a Vanguard, you're better suited drop-kicking your enemies like Randy Orton, followed up with a burst of rounds to the face. It's especially fun to do to other Chaos Marines. Next is the Oculus Bolt Carbine. Just imagine the Bolt Carbine in AKS-74U, but with optics on it. My complaints are the same as the previous, except now you can actually fight larger enemies after giving them a friendly boot to the face. Moving on. Lastly is the Bolt Sniper Rifle. A semi-auto rifle, higher damage than any other bolter, and has a high-powered optic. Here's why I run into a problem. Russian military used the Dragunov as a DMR and sniper role. While I could get away with the Bolt Carbine and Oculus because the stats are pretty similar, the stats on this weapon are so different I can't explain that with the Dragunov. So now, I need to find an AK platform weapon that is semi-auto, fires a larger caliber than the Dragunov, and can use a high-powered optic. I'm using the AK-50. Was it made in Russia? No. Has it been used as a service weapon? No. Does it exist, work, and is based off the AK platform? Yep. Sounds like we got a winner. Now, the role should be clear. Use this on the highest of threats and give them a headshot that rivals a president. Just be mindful of your ammo. You ain't got much. You might be asking why I decided to compare AKs to bolters. And the answer is, I just think it's funny. A person who doesn't know Warhammer must be looking at the bolter variations in Space Marine 2 and think they're lazy design. In reality, like the AKs, it's a case of if it ain't broke, don't fix it, and how you don't need to reinvent the wheel to kill a heretic or a Xenos. Not to mention, having modularity is nice where the logistics span a fucking galaxy. Now, if only there was a way I could compare a weapon platform that actually feels like a bolter. Oh yeah, we're talking about that next video. See y'all next time, out in the warp.